Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Assess Podcast. Today we are building off of part one of our jumping series that we posted last week, and we are going to kind of push the envelope on what we're talking about when it comes to being in the air. We're going to give you tips and tricks to make sure you're safe in the air.
Look, I don't want to talk. How you try and press the kid and really you was soft. All
right, guys, welcome back. So we're going to jump right into some techniques when coming off the ramp. We're going to talk a little bit about being on the ramp, or coming into the ramp, and then being in the air and then landing. This is something that you do need to know. I found out the hard way, and it's fairly simple, but you guys probably need to practice this quite a bit to become sufficient, know what it feels like. So let's just jump into it. What are your guys' tips? Let's start with coming into the ramp, and then we'll talk about, in the air and then landing.
Sounds good. Welcome back, guys. If you're following and you're listening and you're liking what we're doing, if you want more instructional stuff like this on the jumping, let us know in the comments. Subscribe on YouTube, follow our pages on Instagram, Facebook, all that. Interact with us. It helps us a ton. So thank you for the ones that are, and we appreciate every single one of you listening. Like Brent said, we're going to jump right in there. We're going to just kind of take it off from leading into the jump. Once again, we're going to state that if you didn't listen last week, we kind of covered this more in depth. So I'd recommend going back and listening to part one. But for part two here, we're going to just kind of pick it up and carry it to the landing. So super, super important is a consistent throttle and a consistent speed off of your ramp, and having a nice flowing and consistent ramp to have as a takeoff. So with that, you're going to need a lot more throttle control. You don't want to be blipping off of it. You don't want to be, really jerky. You don't want to be jerking your skis, because what you don't realize, and you can do this when you're going down the trail, and that's when you're going to notice this the most. But something that I learned from snowcross was when I was cornering, when you punch it, it lifts your skis up off the ground and you don't have control anymore. So you want that nice consistent throttle, and that's what makes your skis stay planted and you have full control. Now, how you can do that on the trail is when you're turning, give it a little bit more throttle and feel that how you lose control all of a sudden. So that same thing's going to happen when you're going off of a jump. If you're not consistent with your throttle, you panic at the end and, I need to give it some more. Well, all of a sudden your sled's, putting more pressure back on your suspension. Skis are lifting. You're going to lose more control of the snowmobile. Come into it with a good head of speed, can carry that speed all the way through the jump. Now, with doing that, it's going to maintain your jump life too. If you plan on hitting a jump multiple times, a consistent speed, your track's not going to dig your lip out. Your front end's not going to smash into the lip and take your lip off, that type of stuff. So consistent speed is key on all sorts of jumping. Make sure you can build the proper amount of speed on your in run and carry it through the jump. Next phase here is going to be in the air. Now, this is where things either go sideways or stay good. If you have a perfect in run, you can still screw it up in the air.
True.
So what happens, we're going to go over a bunch of different scenarios here, but say, Marcus, you're going off of a jump and you come into it maybe a little too fast. Your skis are in the air a little bit higher than what you want. What would you recommend in that situation?
Get your body weight up front, tap that brake, kind of like we were talking, and try to get your nose to come down before you hit the landing. That way you can make her smooth. Make it look a little stylish in the air.
Yeah.
So there's multiple parts to that are super critical. So what he's saying in that is you come off the jump, your nose high, you're going to want to get your weight forward on the bars. So you're going to want to bring yourself forward on it.
Which is harder than people think.
Yeah.
Because if you're stiff, you're normally back.
Yeah. You're normally, when you take off of a jump, you're going to be elbows up, arms, you're going to be in attack position. So that's going to be hard for you to get forward. But you got to make that adjustment in the air, and you got to find yourself loose in the air to be able to make those adjustments. That comes with being comfortable. That comes with reputation. That comes with lots of hits, etc. But like Brent can probably elaborate on that. He started feeling that a couple weekends ago, how he was having to start to move on the sled because there was a giant bomb hole that he was landing in. So he was having to reposition his body to expect that hard landing if it was sideways or something like that. He was having to counter that in the air to predict what was going to happen in the landing.
And I think another important part is like we were talking about, if you're hitting like a freestyle ramp, it's going to be the same every time.
Every time.
Right? And it's going to be consistent.
Yep.
Your skis are going to come off the exact same time. With the backcountry jump, it's not going to be that way. You can build it that way, but the second you hit it, unless you build it again, it's going to be different. So being able to control the sled in the air, I've found is obviously for obvious reasons, it's very important because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to come off picture perfect. And the other thing is too, is if you think about it, watch the videos of every jump, you're going to come off skis high.
Yeah.
Unless you're dropping something.
Yep. Unless you're going off of a cliff drop. Yeah.
Your skis are going to be above your track considerably because of the incline of the ramp. So you're going to have to be, me coming from a dirt bike, I just thought like, well, I can lean forward a little bit and it's not that big of a deal. I need to blip it off the jump. It is a big deal. It's 500 pounds in the air. You need to be able to hit brake and get that corrected because unless you're dropping, your skis are going to be too high.
Yep.
Essentially.
Correct.
And then you get shit whipped basically when you land because your track's lower than your skis and then it smacks you and you fly over the bars.
Yep.
So it's really important to and it just makes it less intimidating when you're landing on all suspension at the same time.
Yep.
It makes it feel so much smoother.
It's smoother. You don't get that whip effect, all that, like everything about it. Like you want to touch everything down perfectly with the slope that you're on, whatever it's up or down. So with that, super important, like what Marcus said there, grabbing the brake. You have to be comfortable with grabbing the brake in the air. A snowmobile has a heavy track rotating, especially with these mountain sleds. We're riding 155s. That's a large mass of rubber spinning. You have a huge gyrating force there. That is your best friend, though, in the jumping on a snowmobile. You have all the control in the world with that track, having that gyrating, whatever. Weight, whatever it would be.
Rotating mass.
Spinning mass, weight. So with that, you stop that energy, that brings your front end down. So what you're going to do is you come off the jump, skis high, like Brent is saying, you want to get that thing back to the landing flat. So what you're going to have to do is get that body weight forward up on the handlebars and touch that brake. And this is where it gets tricky. And this is where you got to hit a lot of jumps and get practice because this can really wreck you. You got to find out how much brake you need. You can't just pull that sucker because if you do that, then when you land, well, one, you might land on your nose and really like crater it in. But also, you want your track spinning when you land. You want everything with forward movement when you land. If everything is stopped when you land, all that G-force comes to a stop. Bam, right there. So you want that track spinning and launching you forward when you land. Now, when I say that, you don't want to be wide open because that's going to wreck your sled. But you want the track spinning. Now, you can tap your brake, and then that track's going to start spinning again. It's got enough gyrating movement in it that it's going to get back to spinning. So tapping the brake, hazing. I'm really good about hazing the brake. I'm not a great anymore. Maybe it's just the brakes on these mountain sleds. I used to really get her to stop, but now I just haze it almost.
Yeah, and you can hear it in the videos.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until some of the videos we got in the GoPro.
But something with this is, Marcus was telling me, and this is true with everything. Don't hit a massive booter and then expect to have the brake right. You were talking about doubling up the whoops on the trail. Mm-hmm. You remember when you were telling me that? And you're like, hit brake when you're in the air and get the feel for it. Yeah. And it's like, that's you're not really jumping,
right?
But you get that feeling of that sled kicking. Something else too is even hitting a little, hump in the snow and getting 6 inches of air and hitting brake and getting familiar with what it feels like. You guys don't have to hit a 40-foot, booter to get the idea of the brake. Now,
wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, wouldn't recommend it either. But what I will say, jumping it was a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, what I noticed, the faster you're going with track speed, the more pronounced that brake kick is.
Oh, yeah.
I came off one of those lips hot, and I came there and it was one of those moments like, whoa, I'm way higher than I thought I'd be. And I tap brake and I could feel that back end just wham, like way harder than it was when I was just rolling the one to the downhill. So that's just another thing to think about instead of like putting yourself in.
The faster that track is spinning, you're making a much larger impact on it when you stop it.
Right. So, And then before we forget, speak about getting the nose up as well.
Okay. Yep. So you were on a really good track there. Like Marcus had told you, when you're jumping those little whoops in the trail, that's a great place to get a feeling for because it's low risk, whatever you want to say there. You're not going to damage your sled, etc. But you can get the feeling of like, if you can get the little pop off of it and then you grab that brake in the air, what you're going to feel is like it pops the back end up and your skis will land on the other side of the little whoop. And I mean, I'm talking the 4 foot long whoops, like the little ones, nothing big here. What you're going to do is you're going to feel when you land, your track's either going to glide down the backside of that little whoop or you're going to whack into it. And you're going to know exactly which one you did when you do it. So get to where you can kind of like double them perfectly and get that smooth like track up in the air and then land on the downside of it. And that's a great way to get a feeling of the brake for sure is on those little.
And the other thing is like, you take the trail, hop off the trail. If there's a downhill, hit it at 10 miles an hour, get your skis a foot off the snow and smack brake and see what you feel. At least you're in a position where you can't pull too much brake in that position. If you pulled it all the way to the bar, you're not going to nose down and jump in a foot. But you're going to get that kick.
Yeah, you land with your brake all the way on, you're just going to flip over the bars. Like, not going to be a big deal. But
we've all done that a time or two.
Oh, yeah, it happens. It does. So, okay, same scenario, same jump. Coming off the lip, nice consistent throttle. It pitches you and so here's what happens. You take off of a jump and you let off the throttle on the very lip, the last 1 to 2 foot. That sucker is going to pitch your front end down and you're going to go ass end high. So you can predict.
Which is style points, but it's not ideal.
Long track Jack is the best at it.
Yeah, I saw that video today. Holy smokes, dude.
Now Jack Cerami, he's got that figured out. Like that, like style 100%. And it's badass.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it for a beginner at all. Like that is sketchy. And
when your head's closer to the ramp or the landing than your sled is, it's not a good feeling.
Kiss of death.
Exactly. Kiss of death. So in that situation, you can control what your sled's going to do in the air without even touching the brake off the ramp. So one, you go off of it with a nice consistent throttle. Best case scenario. You go off of it like at the top, you gun it some more, you're going to go ski high. Same thing. You let off of it on the ramp, it's going to kick you forward. So, Marcus, I'm coming into the jump. I hit it. I accidentally cut the throttle because I got scared off the lip. Well, now I'm scared. I'm panicked in the air because I'm flying with nose low. What do?
Grab a handful of that throttle.
Panic grab.
Panic grab that thing.
And when you do so the brake has a large effect, and you're going to feel what the effect the brake has to bring the nose down. But when you're in the air and you're in that panic and you grab a 800 or an 850 or a turbo and you let that sucker wind up and go wide open, all of a sudden you're grabbing brake because that thing is like whooing, way up there.
Nose is going up.
Nose goes up. Yeah. So that is the direct thing. Brake, nose down, gas, nose up. Those are the two basic. I mean, we could cut this whole podcast to that right there. But we're breaking it down for you guys.
Yeah, but I knew that, and it still didn't too well with me one time.
So anyway, with that, it's best not to just give her a handful. I mean, you got to get a feeling for it. You got to.
Mark's is like, give her a handful.
Full hand there.
You panic rev until you see God or you get to the checkered flag.
Yes. So yeah, you don't want to just hold it wide open and pray. Like you want to just give her a blip and get that thing to come back. A blip is usually enough to get it back to where you want it. And then you can get back control of the situation. Might take 2 blips depending upon the size of the jump.
See, going back to it, it's like if you have consistent speed, this cuts out so many of your problems.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And someone else commented on a video or Instagram post or something, they said when I was riding dirt bikes, they would tell you to blip it off the lip. I don't know why. I was told the same thing riding dirt bikes. Blip it off the lip. Come into it and whop right off the top.
Huh.
And that's what I thought it was with sleds. I don't know who told me that. I don't know if I watched a video. I don't know if I was really young, but that's what I would always do.
Gotcha.
A dirt bike's a little lighter than a sled though. So I could get it back. But yeah, I don't, obviously not like pin it off the lip, but like, I don't know. They tell you to like blip just a little bit of throttle.
Yeah. Huh.
But
consistent throttle on a snowmobile. Yeah.
That's not ideal.
Yeah. I mean, you want to build your speed in the in run and carry that consistently all the way through the jump. Or it has a huge effect. What you do on the lip of the jump has a huge effect what the sled does in the air. And I mean, when I say a huge effect, very little bit of throttle change on the lip has a huge, huge effect of what it does taking off. So,
and that's why I think going back to part one of this, building a jump that you don't have to hit it at Mach 15 to be able to, accomplish what you're trying to accomplish gives you a better chance of flying right.
Correct. Yep. Couldn't agree there more. Alrighty. So now we have successfully flew in the air and now we're coming up on the
hopefully we did.
Yeah, or hopefully we are. This is the hardest part right here is touching down. I mean, every airplane, this is the hard part. No, it's not bad. If you follow these steps and you're flying in the air straight, landing is actually super easy. And if you have a good landing, you're going to have a nice, easy transition, I think. Two things. You want to land with your skis first. If you're not going to land with your skis first, you want to land perfectly flat. If you land with your skis first, what that does is that compresses those front shocks and the sled glides in. It'll glide in. If you land track heavy, it slaps the skis. That then you lose control because it's going to bunny hop, bounce, whatever. You land skis first, you will never bounce, ever. I don't care how steep it is. I don't care how big of a hole it is. You land skis first, that sucker's going to plant and you're going to be solid. Now you're landing into a hole. You don't necessarily want to land skis first because it's going to want to auger in. So each situation's a little different and that's where you got to learn and know the best. But when I'm saying touch skis first, I'm talking the first half a second your skis are going to touch first.
Yeah, not completely inverted.
You don't want to be like nose wheeling for 5 feet. So that's going to get sketchy.
That's Axel Hodges stop you on a
bike. Exactly. So with that, another important part of it is you want to land with a little bit of throttle on. What that's going to do is that's going to spin that track and it's going to kind of auger itself in. And just like side hilling, all that stuff, if you spin that track, that gives you that like firm and planted feeling, and it's going to kind of squirt you straight. If you're landing crooked and you land with a little bit of throttle on, boom, it's going to shoot you back straight again. It's not going to let you just cartwheel and wad it up.
Hopefully. Yeah.
So landing with a little bit of throttle on, landing skis first, and keeping the sled level through the whole time of the jump. And landing level is going to be your goal. But if you can touch those skis just first, you're going to be very, very steps ahead. That's like professional level jumping stuff right there. Is hitting skis first. So
I just try to get it close to even.
Yeah, you get it even. And in the backcountry, it's so hard because like the landings are so different. But like coming from the snowcross world, like if you land skis first, what it does is it puts your track in the proper like drive in to where you can get the drive to make the next jump, right? So you land skis first, that put you into the glide. You then have your track coming in perfectly to where you have no bounce or hop or anything like that. And snowcross world, you're trying to be fast, so it's efficient, right? Backcountry world, the thing about it is if it's more efficient, it's going to be less painful on the body, easier on the sled, etc. So that's where you want to bring those skis in, touch first, land with a little throttle. That's going to be best case scenario. Now you come into it, whole jump going wrong, and you land wide open, you're probably going to snap a quick drive belt, chain, something like that. These sleds don't have slip gears in them. You're just going to snap something. Never land wide open. It is not good.
I did that last year.
Yeah. How'd you blow your chain case apart, Marcus?
That's the reason.
It landed wide open. Yep. And me and Marcus are probably two of the people that would be comfortable landing wide open, because in the snowcross world, that's how you landed, was wide open. But we had special slippery gears in there that when the torque would hit a certain point, they would slip so you didn't break a chain. But obviously we don't have those here. We had to change our style a little bit, etc. Now, as you get better at jumping in snowcross, you don't rely so much on the slippery gear at that point either. You end up, your timing becomes more perfect. Okay, back to backcountry jumping though. That's enough of that. When you land, you want to be trying to get yourself slowed down, because most likely you're landing downhill or you got an obstacle in front of you or something like that. And you got to be prepared for a hop, and always be ready for a hop. As soft as suspension is on these sleds, and we always make a bomb hole in the backcountry because we're not landing on something hard, you are going to bounce and then bounce potentially again. Be prepared for that. Now, it does start slowing you down fast, so you have to be ready to start braking immediately. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean the first time you land, you are locking the binders up. You want to still have that throttle on, but the next one, you want to start like getting that brake haze on and getting yourself shut down, slowed down. But that initial bomb hole, you just want to focus on landing the jump and then prepare your slowdown from there. Otherwise, things can get sideways real fast. So that's where it comes into having a really good landing and an outrun, we would say. We talked about that in the first episode a little bit, but to describe that, if you're flying 60 feet, just know you have zero control for 60 feet in the air, and you're building speed, most likely falling out of the sky. So you're going to gain speed. You come into it with 30 mile an hour and you're falling out of the sky, you're going to end up landing still probably about 30 mile an hour. You have to be able to shut that down with a hop in it. So you're going to need probably 60 feet to shut down. Like I'd give yourself double. So be prepared of that. Like if I'm flying,
some of the guys' hops are bigger than the jumps.
I mean, you're like that jump that you were hitting. Yeah. I think your hop was damn near as big as what you were jumping.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're getting a pretty gnarly bomb hole there, and we were shoveling it in. But
yeah, case on the lip. It's like hitting another lip.
Yeah. So, you're carrying you got to remember all that speed that you're hitting that jump in. You're not losing any of it once you hit. So you're gonna go again, and that's where it's like you don't want to be like, oh, I got to jump and I got 30 foot to shut down by this tree. That'll be easy. No, you're not gonna do it. It's impossible because you're gonna be in the air for that 30 foot, and the next thing you know, you're gonna be in the rhubarb, you know,
post holding like a moose.
Yeah, you'll be
looking at the scenery, looking at the road.
Yeah. So with that, another really important thing for me is I like landing on downhills. It makes my back feel better the next day. Big step ups are cool, all that stuff, but I prefer a nice, good, gradual downhill, or a steeper the better for me to land on. But that's not every ideal situation. Just a downhill landing in general is going to benefit your jump all around. Man, brake, throttle control in the air, steady throttle off the jump, and just make sure when you make the landing not to adjust. You don't want to over adjust when that initial land point. You just want to keep it pretty consistent from your takeoff, your correction in the air. Very minimal effort or movement from each situation. And that's going to, your first touchdown point, that's going to be your most success. Then you start making movements with your body, trying to get it shut down, get it braked, get it stopped. I've definitely had some jumps where I've had to throw the sucker on its side to get her to stop. Before whacking a tree, you got to dump that sumbitch on its side and, try to get her to stop. But that's obviously not ideal. I wouldn't recommend that ever. I don't even like doing that ever. So
yeah,
gets a little sideways.
It's a little hairy.
Yeah. Am I missing anything?
I think you got her most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. I hope this helps somebody out there in the YouTube world. Jumping is a complicated thing. It's a very complicated thing. I don't know how many views we're getting on this, but I really hope this helps somebody. It's a very technical thing. Brent can kind of speak on that. Like jumping is not something that's for everybody. And don't go out there thinking that you can just listen to some podcasts, watch some people on Instagram, and go hit some booters, because you need to get some. You're going to end up riding in a helicopter. You got to get some experience and
Yeah,
do it
we're not
safely.
liable for your injuries.
Yeah. No, like I highly recommend you build yourself up to it. And that's what we're working with Brent right now, is getting him built up to be a better jumper, to where one day he'll be on, Marcus and I's level is the goal. And it's complicated. Don't think that you're on an uphill battle. You just are. So be prepared for it.
Yep. I think we're good.
Yeah.
I think you touched it all.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, until next week, let her eat, find some fresh snow, and have a good time. Thanks for listening.
See ya.